Thank you for hosting. Thank you for the awesome food. That's just a taste of Google. I've been to a couple Google offices, and they always have really good food, free food, and a variety of free, healthy food. So that's just a taste of like what Google offers their employees. Working at Google is a really amazing thing. That's my Twitter handle. That's me, Pat Yongpradit. And that bit.ly link is actually a link to this presentation. It's a Google Slides presentation. You'll have view access, so you can so you don't edit it on the fly while I'm giving it. But you can just take it and copy it. So if you're an administrator, if you're a local or state advocate or whatever, feel free to just take my slides and use them, adapt them, whatever. You don't even need to say from Pat or something. Just take it and do what you want with it. I want to start off with a big announcement because this is New York. Let me use this clicker. Yeah, start off with a big announcement. How many people know about about Governor Cuomo's announcement this past Monday? All right, this is awesome, so I get to surprise you. Surprise! New York State is going to put $30 million to computer science education over the next 5 years. That's $6 million times 5 for teacher training. That's for you all to receive training, to receive stipends, to pay for travel, etc., etc. So all the logistics, so don't ask me for details, are going to be worked out later by IgniteSTEM and other groups. But that's the nation's largest investment at the state level. The next largest is actually a state called Arkansas. And you wouldn't expect that Arkansas would make a commitment like that, but they've committed $20 million. They've already put $15 million over the last 3 years, and they have another year of $5 million to go. This money will prioritize K through 8, actually, and the districts that are most in need. So if you're working at those schools, if you're working at those districts, and if you're a KE teacher, this money will get to you somehow, some way. So just kind of keep tuned to it. Your district people probably don't even know about this because this is hot off the presses. And then lastly, the goal of this money, so this is not a mandate, so this is more like a grassroots effort. The goal of this money is to provide computer science in every K-12 school across the state by 2025. And obviously, if you're in the city, you already know about CS for All and the New York City's effort through the DOE. But this is has now become a statewide effort. So wherever you're at, New York is trying to lead the nation in terms of computer science education. I'm going to actually skip to my conclusion just to make sure I hit these topics, hit these like takeaways, and I don't run out of time. If you want to learn more about anything I talk about today, free curriculum from code.org, K through 12. Any of the curriculum resources like videos, etc. Feel free to visit code.org/educate. You'll also find links to our regional partners where you'll get to attend free workshops that we offer through our regional partners. And we have a regional partner here in New York City. It's called Code Interactives, C/I. And you can email programs at codeinteractive.org, and they'll send you all the listings of all their workshops that they're holding this summer. You can also visit csforall.nyc and use the hashtag CSForAllNYC just to stay abreast of things happening in New York City. And then lastly, there's a nonprofit that advocates for computer science in New York. It's called csnyc.org. All right? And then, the second step is actually like my request of you, the practical. So how you make this worthwhile. And that's actually to integrate computer science into your class. A lot of you all that I talk to are STEAM teachers, STEM teachers, instructional technology coordinators, etc. And actually, I didn't meet too many like dedicated computer science teachers. Raise your hand if you're a dedicated coding computer science teacher. Oh, there we go. Look at that. We're the minority in this room. That's good. So that means that there are a lot of folks here who haven't heard the computer science spiel before, or maybe at least my computer science spiel. So that's a great thing. But I'm going to ask you something, just to try something small, to integrate computer science into your class. One lesson, one unit, one module, something. There's so much free stuff out there, whether it's curriculum and professional development, there's no reason why you can't. All right? All right, here we go. So, I'm going to talk about code.org. I'm going to talk about why we're even bothering with this computer science thing. I'm going to talk about computational thinking and what in the world is that. I'm going to talk about you and the things that you can access. And I'm going to start by talking about our mission at code.org. Our mission at code.org is to make sure that every single school has computer science, K through 12, and sometimes even in states like Maryland, pre-K, because in Maryland, where I'm from, they consider the school system PK to 12, P to 12, not K to 12. And so we believe that every single school should have computer science so that every single student has the opportunity to take it. This is my 7th period AP Computer Science class from 2013, the last year I taught. I've been at code.org basically since the beginning, so for the last 5 years. And I love seeing this picture. This picture helps ground me, so it's actually more for me than for you. This reminds me that everything that we do at code.org, and even everything that we do in this conference right now, all of it goes for the purpose of meeting their needs, right? And this is an AP Computer Science class. This is actually one of 2 classes, and it's actually a very normal school. It wasn't like a magnet school or something. And so we had about 60 kids taking AP Computer Science, and that wasn't easy to build. It especially wasn't easy to build a class that looked like this. You know, not just one race and one gender, but all different types of kids across 9 through 12, actually. Some seniors, some sophomores, etc. And what's awesome about this picture, I love to point this out, is that there are a lot of students wearing athletic uniforms in this picture, and all those students are girls. So this picture is just breaking a whole bunch of stereotypes all at once. This picture is about 70 or 80 kindergartners. And my daughter, Ginger, is actually right at the top of the G, the one smiling in the gray hoodie. This was taken a number of years ago. We were doing an unplugged activity for the Hour of Code and Computer Science Education Week. And we were learning about pixels and how they're not magic. So the stuff that shows up on the screen, it's not magic. Like, it's just numbers in the end. And so actually, these tiles had numbers behind them that represent their location and their color. And so kids at that point learned that, you know, the letters, the pictures that they see on a screen are just numbers in the end. And it was just an introductory activity to help them learn about computing. And everything that we do at code.org and what you do also reaches these kids. So it's not just about the high school kids. And at code.org, we're all about 2 things. Number 1, bridging the digital divide through education. In this case, computer science education. Because that's where the digital divide mostly exists these days. It's not access to computers or even broadband internet, it's access to the learning. What are you doing on those computers? In fact, in this crowd right now, there are a lot of folks who teach things like PowerPoint, keyboarding, things like that. And those things are very important. I had to use my keyboarding and PowerPoint skills to create these slides, right? But in the 21st century, we need to go beyond that. When we think about digital literacy, computer literacy, we need to think beyond just the consuming or using technologies, but to the creating those technologies. Because never before do we have access to the creative medium of computing like now. So back in the day, right, there were gears and wood and things like that that people had to build technology with, and it was tough and it was hard. And there were blacksmiths, and there were even scribes, right, for writing. Them going way back, right? These things were special. Writing was a technology at one point. But at some point, these things became things for everyone. In the same way, coding, computer science, computational thinking, these are things that are supposed to be for everyone now. Especially since if we think about the role of computing in our lives. And obviously this has a lot to do with diversity in the digital workforce. And that's what we tackle as well. That's why we do our work as well, because we want to see a diverse digital workforce. And so we do a number of things. I'm going to breeze through these fast because you can just visit code.org to see much more about what we do. Number 1, we build a platform to make learning accessible. That means a coding environment, tutorials from K to 12. Block languages to real deal JavaScript, creating apps and games. That's the first thing we do, and all that's for free. If you visit go.org, you can create a teacher account and do your thing. We have over 20 million students on co.org, and 45% of them in the US are female, 48% are underrepresented minorities, and something I'm very proud of, 49% are students on free and reduced meals. So already we're breaking like the idea of who does computer science, that idea. Second, for you all, we create curriculum that any teacher could teach. So we don't create curriculum for official certified computer science teachers. It's for any teacher. And so these, we have workshops and we have curricula that is, full curricula, full teacher resources. I'll talk about them later, but all of that again is for free at co.org. We prepare teachers with no background. For example, 72,000 teachers have been trained over the last 4.5 years. Raise your hand if you've gone to a co.org training of any sort. Oh wow, okay, hey folks. So you all are part of the extended family. I'm gonna point out a couple people right now so that you can talk to them about the experience of going to a co.org workshop. And they're right here, actually. So Kelly Powers, Rudy, and Andrew, could you just stand up? These are 3 people that you can talk to about middle school, elementary school stuff. And then Sue, where are you? Sue went to an elementary school. Sue, if you could stand up. So just talk to Sue if you want to know what it's like to be like a new to coding teacher who just goes to a one-day workshop just to feel a bit more comfortable. And again, those are offered in New York City through our partner, Code Interactive. A thing that I focus on right now as a Chief Academic Officer is actually much more higher level stuff at the state and federal level. So that Governor Cuomo's announcement, Code.org was involved with that. Maryland, we just passed a bill through the House and Senate, it needs to be signed by the governor. That's a $7 million over 3 years. So we're working hard at Code.org to get that money for you all at the state and federal level. And then lastly, the 5th thing that we do at Code.org is we break stereotypes. So whether that's Sue Bird, who used to be a WNBA player, who's now a professor of human-computer interaction at University of Washington, or Chris Bosch, who of the Miami Heat, or used to be of the Miami Heat, who took coding in college, or a woman like Tess, who's an engineer at Google, or these women right here in the video. We try to break stereotypes around who does computer science and who's interested in it. And we do this thing called the Hour of Code. Raise your hand if you've done the Hour of Code. Awesome. So the Hour of Code continues to build momentum through partnerships with Disney or Microsoft, through Google, Scratch, etc. But, folks, this presentation is all about going beyond an Hour of Code. So if you do an Hour of Code, awesome. If you don't do an Hour of Code, try it. But we need to go beyond that, to hours, days, and years of computer science. If we're going to change the culture of technology in our country, we have to go beyond just an hour of code. So, why computer science? Well, I would play Family Feud with you if you were a smaller group right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just give you the answers and expound on them a bit. Now, this is important. So even if you're a computer science advocate right now, and you have some rationale for computer science, you need to think about these things because I use these all the time. So this is almost like advocate training. And for those of you who don't know why computer science, this is just your first touch. So the first reason for computer science, and by the way, ignore those numbers on the side. I usually say if I have 2 groups feuding, I'll say 100 fake people were asked, why computer science, these are their top 5 reasons, so I just put fake numbers to these. So the first reason for computer science is equity and access. We talked about a diverse workforce. Well, the reason why there isn't as much diverse digital workforce right now is because there isn't diverse enrollment at the university level, right? And there isn't diverse enrollment at the university level because there isn't diverse enrollment at the K-12 level, and there isn't diverse enrollment at the K-12 level because all schools don't offer computer science, right? There was a time in science, I actually got my undergrad in biology, neurobio actually, and there was a time when there weren't many women in bio classes at the university level. Now, in the nation, I think like 54% of bio undergrad majors, folks getting the bio, like completing the degree, are women. That's amazing. And that happened because we decided, science should be a K-12 thing, should be taught in every single school. And that's not the case with computer science, because computer science is not taught in every single school. And so we're trying to change that. I'm trying to change that. We're trying to change that for students like Ronnie and Sherelle. Ronnie Ortiz was just a senior, and he was not really doing well. He wasn't really excited for school. On a whim, he decided to take my computer programming class. Actually, sorry, he was a junior. On a whim, he decided to take my computer programming class. He loved it. The next year, he took 2 classes. He took both levels 2 and 3 at the same time, because he was a senior and he couldn't fit it all. So I got to him late. Fortunately, he got that experience, got to win a national game design competition because of it in the senior year, and then he went on to intern at a lawyer's office running their technology outfit during his community college experience. Sherelle, her buddies were in my computer science class sophomore year, so she was a sophomore. She didn't take the class. She hung out in the class a lot because of her buddies. She decided to take it junior and senior year. She's now at the University of Maryland. She got a full ride. She's at the University of Maryland. She's majoring in cybersecurity, and she's like the Air Force equivalent of ROTC as well. She's got it made. I mean, she's gonna be in high demand. She's gonna be making more than all of us upon graduating, right? And she won this award from the National Center for Women in Technology, the Aspirations in Computing Award. If you are like a big proponent of women in computing, you've got to have your students apply, motivate them to apply to the National Center for Women in Technology, NCWIT, Aspirations in Computing Award. In fact, even in this room, I'm sure there are teachers who've already done that. Maybe there are even some teachers of award winners in this room. So equity and access, remember that. Number 2, jobs. This is a no doubt. Advanced computing skills are increasingly important, not just in the tech fields, and there's lots of demand, but across all STEM fields, right? Computational biology. There's like computational anthropology as well. There's like all these different fields popping up, being innovated by computer science. And so should we give this power to our students? And again, it's not just tech fields, STEM fields, it's all industries, financial industry, etc. This is how you innovate in this modern world. And so jobs are high satisfaction, high demand. That's another reason for K-12 computer science. People want it. Google Gallup did a survey. 90% of parents, it's actually 91% of parents in the US want their children to learn computer science in schools. And Horizon Media did a report, and they did a survey, they looked at all the different subjects in school, and actually computer science and engineering ranked second, just behind the sexy subjects, the arts and humanities. So that's amazing. And way above things like math or science. And in fact, if you're a math or science teacher in this room, I used to be a science teacher, teach computer science. You can be the cool teacher. Rather than feeling like you have to cover topics for the state assessment, you can just do fun, cool stuff. And if you do it using modeling and simulation, you actually get to integrate it into the curriculum. Per the NGSS, there's this whole practice called computational thinking. A whole practice called modeling and simulation. How are you going to get to that? Through computer science and coding. Have them program models and simulations rather than just being given them and then just changing the toggle switches. 4th reason, it's our modern world, it's everywhere. And I'm going to skip to the 5th reason, it's also a superpower. It changes everything that you can do. So I was thinking about this. I was a bio major again, and I remember learning about DNA and DNA transcription and ATCG. So check this out. Imagine if we had telekinetic powers to control DNA. So you could literally in your mind control the connections and the A, T, and C, and G, and whatever, right? And create these strands of DNA. You could create life that way. Now, obviously, that's science fiction, but guess what? You can do that in the computing world. You can control ones and zeros, and guess what? You don't have to think of ones and zeros. You can use blocks and just click blocks together to create programs. You can type simple code or hard code depending on the programming language. There are lots of resources out there to make coding accessible to even young kids. And so it is a superpower in that we can make things happen. Video games are an example. Movies are an example. We can make things happen that are just purely in our brain. And then we can share that with the entire world with the press of a button. That is pretty amazing. That's a superpower. This is a video that I'm not going to show because we don't have time, but this is a wonderful video if you want to talk about the role of computer science in a variety of fields, the power of computer science. If you go to YouTube, you just type in computer science is changing everything, code.org. In fact, at code.org we have, I think about now, hundreds of videos about computer science. Some tied to our curriculum, some that are just, you can just use it for any situation. So let's talk about computational thinking and clear up some things, all right? This is going to be educational as well. You're going to hear, or you've already heard the term computational thinking. And you think you know what it is. And even if you do know what it is, it might be hard to explain to other people. So this is what I do. I don't actually try to define it, though I'm about to show you a definition. So I don't actually try to define it when I talk to normal lay people. I just say, imagine this. And I use a robot. Imagine that there was a robot here. You can imagine it as an Android robot or a smaller robot, whatever, right? And here you are as a human. And you need to tell that robot what to do. You can't speak English because that robot doesn't understand English. It has its own language. Computational thinking is how you think through how to communicate with that robot so that it will do something using its language. And in this case, it's the language of computing. And if you know programming, it might be an actual particular language, but that's computational thinking at a higher level. So basically, computational thinking, you have to be precise, right? So you can't just talk and say, hey, I want you to move forward and do this and do that and get me a cup of coffee. No, you need to think and you need to structure it, you need to decompose the problem, you need to think about sequence and order and repetition, and you want to be efficient. This is computational thinking. And if you want an official definition, computational thinking involves the thought processes involved in expressing solutions as steps or algorithms that can be carried out by a computer. I use a robot because a robot's physical and a laptop doesn't have arms or wheels or whatever, and robots usually do. So, but it's really about any computing agent, any device. That's computational thinking. Another way to think about computational thinking, and this is dangerous, so be careful how you use this. You can call it problem solving powered by a computer. The reason why that's dangerous is because people can think, oh yeah, problem solving powered by a computer, Microsoft PowerPoint, right? But that's not computational thinking. That's just using an application to cook up a presentation. Because you're not creating any algorithms in that experience. You're just clicking on buttons and such. You don't need to worry about order other than the order of your slides. So that's computational thinking, but we're going to break it down a little bit more. I mentioned a couple things. And remember, these slides are online, bit.ly/ignitecode. So not only, and I know some people, I usually just take notes anyway because it just helps me remember stuff. But just know that you can just take these and run with them. Hopefully you'll change the Twitter handle in the bottom right corner. Heads up. So, decomposition, breaking problems down, pattern recognition, representation. So here's the thing. Let's say we had a problem. Picking a prom dress. Picking the right prom dress. That's the problem. And we're going to apply computational thinking to it. Okay. And so we want to create let's create an app so that I can help myself pick a prom outfit, and I can give it to other people, and they can pick prom outfits as well. And in fact, they can potentially help improve the prom outfit picking by using the app. And so what I need to do per step 3, let's just focus on representation, is I need to think through, okay, so what are the characteristics of a great prom dress, prom outfit? So maybe color, price, etc. Well then, how do I quantify those things? Price, that's easy. Color, how do I quantify color? Like, how do I quantify like a good color? Like yellow versus red. 'Cause I think most people would probably pick red over yellow for prom. Maybe. And so representation involves quantifying the things that are qualitative. And that's a part of computational thinking. Why? Because you have to translate the real world into the computer world. That's representation. How do you represent problems for computers to understand? And how do computers understand problems? With numbers. That's it. Just a bunch of numbers in the end. And as we know, a bunch of ones and zeros. And if you're a computer engineer, you know just changes in voltage. That's what ones and zeros are. And then you might do some abstraction. I'm not going to get into that because we don't have time. And just talking about abstraction is just a rat hole. Be very careful talking about abstraction because the nature of talking about abstraction is that it's abstract. And then number 5, algorithm design. These are aspects of computational thinking. Also just testing and evaluation, but I wanted to show you what computational thinking looks like in your STEM fields, because this is Ignite STEM, right? So this is not Ignite Computer Science. A lot of you all are STEM teachers, so you cross different fields. And so this is what computational thinking looks like when you're dealing with data, or modeling and simulation, or if you're thinking about systems. These are all examples of actual computational thinking skills / tasks. So obviously programming is a computational problem-solving practice, but there are lots of other computational problem-solving practices other than programming. All right. And maybe you're thinking, okay, Pat, I kind of get this, but really, like, so if I look at my curriculum and I want to infuse computational thinking, where would I put it? Well, let me give you some examples. These examples come from the K-12 CS framework. Talk a little bit about that next, and it's available at k12cs.org. But here are examples of how science, math, and computer science intersect. One way is modeling. I talked about modeling and simulation, right? There's great mathematics involved in modeling a problem. Obviously, modeling a problem, modeling a phenomenon like weather or the ecosystem or predator-prey interactions, that's totally a science thing, right? You're covering science content there. But then actually creating the model involves developing and using abstractions. That's computer science. Even defining a problem can be an intersection between science, math, and computer science. So in science, you're supposed to develop this practice of asking questions and defining problems so that they can be scientifically studied. Things like independent, dependent variables, etc. In math, you're supposed to persevere in solving them and just make general sense of problems. That's why lots of kids these days, for a lot of the math reform, use multiple approaches to solving a problem. I thought that parents were just old when they said, oh, I don't even know how to help my kid with math these days. And then I became a parent, and my kid's doing, was she Ginger? She's in 4th grade. She's, fractions. She's doing fractions right now. And I don't, some of these worksheets that come back, I don't know what, she doesn't know how to explain to me like the approach. So I always go back to the old school, which is definitely not the approach that she's learning. And she always tells me, no, that's wrong. And I'm like, I don't know how to help you then. But that's what's happening in math, the idea of making sense of problems and persevering in them. And then obviously computer science. If you're recognizing and defining computational problems, what can be solved computationally, that's the aspect of defining problems in computer science. Here are some very direct examples of integration in science and math. So if you want to integrate computer science into science, go to projectdev.org. Wonderful program, free curriculum, free program environment. You can create your own models and simulations and move toggles, and kids can understand how, I think in the bottom right corner, that's not a zoo, that's supposed to be like some type of ecosystem of some sort. and I think wolves are eating giraffes or something like that. Then there's rapid population growth depending on food in the top right, and then bottom left is pollution and the water cycle. So these are things that you can model. And then there's like video game design, which is very mathematical. And so there's a program called Bootstrappers. And you can visit that at bootstrapworld.org. Again, free curriculum and free coding environment. And you can learn about algebra and make video games at the same time. And kids can understand that the images in their video games are all based on a coordinate plane. And it's just manipulation of numbers that controls the collision between different graphics and sprites and such. In fact, there are even videos that Code.org has made to help bolster the Bootstrap experience. And this is a video of someone talking about the distance formula and how that's used when deciding whether two graphics are colliding by examining the distance between their center points. Video game design is highly mathematical. And if you're a math teacher and you're tired of worksheets and your kids complaining about math, if you can figure out a way to infuse game design into your class and get at the algebra standards, it's a win. Even more a win, because Bootstrap has done this, shown this through research, if the kids do better on those state assessments because of this experience, because they're learning it at a deeper level. So these are two examples that you can totally research later. Then lastly, let's talk about other resources available to you all. And we will have a bit of Q&A at the end. And actually, I'm going to have a task for you to do as well. I think probably one of the most important tasks to do at a conference. So remind me of that if I forget at the end. The K-12 CS framework. Okay. We have some administrators, some coordinators, some people building programs at schools, private schools, whatever in this audience. The K-12 CS framework basically is your guidebook and playbook to everything computer science. It covers everything. If you're familiar with the National Research Council's framework for K-12 science education and how that led to the NGSS and everything we see in science reform these days, this is the same thing. It was created by 5 organizations, 27 different writers, and 25 advisors from all over the nation. So while I, from Code.org, am talking about it right now, it's actually, it was a community effort. And you can visit that, look at the framework, and even watch the video at k12cs.org. And the framework talks about 2 things: core concepts and core practices. Concepts, practices. If you're familiar with the Common Core or the NGSS, it's a very similar structure, but now applied to computer science. And one thing I want to note, a lot of people equate coding with computer science, like they are exactly the same thing. Coding is a part of computer science, and it's normally called programming. And here you see, as part of the 5 concepts, that it's just one of them, algorithms and programming. But there are lots of other aspects of computer science as well, including aspects of computer science that probably would have helped our senators and Congress folks when asking Mark Zuckerberg questions over the last couple days. I was trying to watch that panel hearing while doing work, and I got so frustrated. You know how, so Zuckerberg is trying to answer these people's questions, and all they care about is asking the questions, right? Not the answer, and their questions made no sense. They totally could have just asked any 10-year-old and got some answers to their questions, right? So not only did they show lack of understanding around social media and its impacts, but just computing literacy in general, right? And so if they had been younger and in a school that taught per the K-12 CS framework, they would have covered stuff about the social and ethical impacts of computing. They would have covered, you know, things about bias and all that. And in fact, they would have even covered things about the institutional obstacles and barriers that have led to our non-diverse tech industry right now, rather than berating Zuckerberg for all the woes in the tech industry's plight to get more diversity. So that's the K-12 CS framework. It talks about other things like pathways. If you're cooking up a K-12 pathway, guess what? It has information about that as well. And again, you feel free to take a look at k12cs.org for more information. I also want to talk about curriculum, because in the end, you all don't care necessarily about higher level things. You just want to know, give me stuff to teach my kids, I want to engage them, right? So at go.org, we have K-12 curricula, again, available for free that you can access online. The great thing, teachers, especially if you're new to computer science, is that there are a bunch of tutorials and videos. That means that you don't have to be the expert on the stage. You can just put them on it, watch the videos. The videos are really entertaining. They show a variety of people talking about computer science, some famous, some...
Especially if you have clever students.
Yeah.
Right? And it becomes really problematic. Yeah. So we've been like sort of working on how do you deal with this? How do you place
Scratch has heard you. In Scratch 3.0. Maybe you have the answer. You want to answer?
No, I don't have the answer. Well, I have a question, but plan something out that you want them to accomplish. It has a rubric, it has requirements, and that's how they get the grade. And make it fun. And
that's great. Not if you have a whole school of 50 students who have ADHD and they're really clever.
Let me give you
same thing.
So Scratch 3.0. They've heard you, and actually they're creating more bite-sized tutorials and an in-editor guidance system as well. So they're basically applying more guidance to the Scratch experience, so that it's not just you're just thrown into the sandbox and you just figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So they're putting more bounds to it. Now, and obviously, Code.org, we take a different route. It's much more bounded from the beginning and like tutorialized and step, and then you get to more of the open-ended stuff. I can take, I think, one more question. Yes?
So, my name is Brandy. I come from Baltimore, New York. And my question is, I've had the opportunity to spend the first year in our district to expose 4th and 5th graders to Code.org. What are my next steps? Because I have them at love. And they're all on board, but I don't know.
Did they do well with the Code.org stuff? Okay. And then they're still interested, obviously.
Yes.
Okay, so you're looking for curriculum recommendations after. So actually, at the end of the Code.org courses A through F, there are these tiles. I don't know when they pop up, but they have different curriculum recommendations at the end of the course. I'll just tell you them, but you can also visit, if you just type into a search engine, Code.org third party, you'll see a whole matrix of things, elementary, middle, and high school. So obviously I talked about Scratch 3.0, that's one thing. You can go to some of our for-profit providers as well, Tinker, T-Y-N-K-E-R, Codesters, C-O-D-E-S-T-E-R-S, which actually is based in the city, and lots of other folks as well. You can just go to the third-party page and you'll see. Hey, Ignite folks, we got a, is that the last question? I can't. One more question? One more question, yes. Oh, sorry. She was raising her hand before, sorry. Yes?
It's really not a question, it's just I wanted to say that I just love the program at Code.org. I appreciate it on board. And I just think one of the activities was becoming club visits.
Can you guys hear her?
Our whole district ran one club, and my K-5 students used the Unplugged activity.
She's saying that her K-5 students use Code.org's Unplugged activity. She likes the program.
Where we used the graph paper coding, and I taught them how to do the graph paper coding. We used graph paper illustrations with the code to the side of all the characters in the story. And then my middle school students made banners actually putting some.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. There's a storybook that goes with some of the K-5 stuff in our curriculum. And there are also these unplugged activities where you don't need a computer and you just do these activities. One is called graph paper programming, and she did that and the kids loved it, and they made these very artistic things. So that's my time, folks. The thing that I want you to do, and I think, I don't know if Olivia's coming back up to give instructions about the breakouts, but right after, while you're moving to the breakouts, before you actually start walking away, I just want you to meet the people to your north, south, left, east, west, and the diagonals as well. So basically, if you're in the center, you're like talking to 8 people, right? Yeah, because you know what? That's the best part of these conferences, right? Like networking with other people. Then you find, oh, you're in school right next to me and you're doing this stuff, and you have curriculum, and you're going to save about 10 hours of work. Awesome. So, Olivia, why don't you come on up, give us some instructions, and then when you break out to leave, please make sure to talk to them. Thank you.